Before he became the father of communism, before the Communist Manifesto or Das Kapital, Karl Marx wrote something that most people have never heard about. At just 19 years old, he penned a dark, disturbing play called Oulanem. It wasn't just political, it was spiritual and possibly demonic. In this play, Marx's main character curses God, embraces death, and vows to drag the entire world into ruin. He writes, "I shall build my throne high, overhead, cold, tremendous shall its summit be, for its marshal's blackest agony." And in another piece of writing, Marx says, "I wish to avenge myself against the one who rules above." This wasn't just economic theory, this was a war against heaven. So the question is, was this youthful rebellion, or was this something darker that influenced Karl Marx from the start? Let's take a deeper look at the real Karl Marx, not just the philosopher, but the man who may have been in direct rebellion against God himself. In today's video, we'll be watching Jordan Peterson and his guest, Dr. Paul Kingor, talk about some of the more disturbing things that Karl Marx wrote even before he wrote the Communist Manifesto and some of his more famous writings. That being said, guys, thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, guys, the best way to do that is to grab you some Christian streetwear over at Jesus and Japan. Help us share the gospel and the love of Christ by wearing merch that reflects your faith. So with that being said, guys, let's hop into today's video.
Wrote that were pans to Mephistopheles. Is that after he becomes an atheist?
No, he's writing. So the first one was 1837. Wrote another in 1841. He wrote a bunch of them. And
right.
He did just a chilling play called Oulanem.
Yes.
Oulanem. And people that are watching this, if they now type into their computer Oulanem, even in Google, it'll pop up, play by Karl Marx.
Yeah.
It even has a Wikipedia entry. And let me warn people, you might not want to do this, but if you click the images button, you will see, there's some satanic stuff up there from like, not heavy metal, but like black metal groups. So Oulanem is an anagram for Emmanuel or Emmanuello.
Right.
So
right.
Marx takes Emmanuel, which is the name given to Christ, or Manuelo, and he flips it into this anagram called Oulanem. And it's this chilling play. The main character is Lucindo, Lucindo, and you just can't believe what you're reading.
I'm sorry to pause it there, but you notice that like the first 4 letters of that main character's name is Lucy. That's crazy. That is crazy. Just something I wanted to point out there.
With this play. Mm-hmm. So that was written later in the 1840s. So really the prime of his writing, including the decade when he wrote the Communist Manifesto, is also the same decade when he was writing these poems.
And plays.
And throughout his life, his kids and others would say, he had a favorite line always from Mephistopheles.
Right,
everything that exists deserves to perish. So that remains a part of him throughout his life. His son, Edgar, has a letter where he addresses his father as "my dear devil," which I don't know. Maybe it's playful. I don't know.
Yeah.
Although I would never, call my dad "my dear devil." Mm. His wife called him "my wicked knave." I quote Henrik Heinzen referring to him as a goblin who tried to take me under his spell. Other cases of where he's using that kind of language. When Engels first met him, he describes him as this dark man from Trier, who hops and leaps and springs on his heels, the monster of 10,000 devils, he describes him. Mm-hmm. And the letter from his father is, which was written in 1837, a year before his father died. So his father writes to him, March 2nd, 1837. "Karl, at times my heart delights in thinking of you and your fortune, and yet at times I cannot rid myself of ideas which arouse in me sad forebodings and fear when I am struck as if by lightning by the thought, is your heart in accord with your head, your talents? Has it room for the earthly but gentler sentiments which in this vale of sorrow," it's a beautiful letter in many ways, are essentially consoling for a man of feeling. And then this question from the father of Karl Marx to his, at this point, 18-year-old son. And since that heart, Karl, is obviously animated and governed by a demon, not granted to all men, is that demon heavenly or Faustian? Will you ever, and that is not the least painful doubt of my heart, will you ever be capable of truly human domestic happiness? And this doubt has no less tortured me since I have come to love a certain person like my own child. Will you ever be capable of imparting happiness to those immediately around you? By the way, the answer was no, right?
Well,
But that phrase,
Imagine your father writing that to you and it being true. Imagine your father questioning whether you would live a normal human life and not be dark and mysterious and somewhat ominous, and I would even say under demonic influence all your life. Like your father's been wondering that about you since he's been your dad. That's a little worrisome, mate.
Father had intimations of that.
Yeah, and since that heart is obviously animated and governed by a demon not granted to all men, is that demon heavenly or Faustian?
Right,
that's his dad.
Yeah.
And there's only so many of those things I think that a sympathetic Marxist or Marxist biographer can shrug off. I mean, there's just so many statements like that from him and people about him and people who knew him and loved ones and a wife, a son, a best friend from Engels, and then the different writings. Whew.
Okay, so let's attack this.
Now, was he a Satanist, right?
Well,
that is a whole different thing that I can't personally answer.
Well, it seems not unreasonable to presuppose that he was a devotee of the Mephistophelian ethos.
Yeah, I think that's
right. So
really
the question is, what constitutes a Satanist? Well, someone who generates a murderous doctrine, that raises questions.
Yeah.
I mean, dead serious about that.
Right.
The most murderous doctrine ever promoted in.
I'm sorry to pause him and cut him off there, but he's absolutely right, and it's one of the reasons why I say that Islam. Sorry to bring up Islam in this video. Was started by a demon because of the doctrine that came out of that. It wasn't something that was all, rainbows and butterflies that was created. It was, hey, these Christians are behind me. I'm a rock. They come get them, that's things like that. And even with communism and the deaths that have come because of communist governments, man, it's crazy that, that Karl Marx started all that and see his influence, be something possibly that was demonic, man, is crazy.
In the roughly Judeo-Christian context by a large margin. So I would say it's incumbent on those who would defend him to describe why we wouldn't just assume that. But the part of the reason that I was so interested in talking to you was because I felt that what you documented in your book was extraordinarily telling from the psychological perspective, because I know how these things work. And it is not something that can be overlooked, that was his favorite quote.
Right.
I mean, especially not when you understand Goethe's centrality in the German intellectual tradition. That's like having a favorite quote from Shakespeare, right? And it's not any old quote. It's the central credo of Mephistopheles. So that's extraordinarily telling. Now I do have another.
Can I give you a...
Yes.
So Robert Payne, the very serious academic, no right-winger, British man of letters, the guy who really broke this first in his 1968 biography of Marx, all right? His chapter where he talks about this stuff is called The Demons in his Marx biography. Now, he wrote this, and I'm not saying that I endorse this. As an academic, I can't say if this is correct. There were times when Marx seemed to be possessed by demons. That's what Payne wrote. And now this I would at least more endorse. Marx had the devil's view of the world and the devil's malignity.
What?
Sometimes he seemed to know that he was accomplishing works of evil. I think that gets closer to it. Now, Pastor Richard Wurmbrand, who wrote the famous book Tortured for Christ, and was tortured for Christ in Romanian prisons by communist captors who were shouting, "I am the devil," while they were torturing him. He did a book called Marx and Satan. He's convinced that Marx was a Satanist and did some things ritualistically that it might have even been satanic. But I can't say that. I can't endorse that.
But you see evidence of that in his play.
I've never seen,
in terms of at least his fantasies.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
In fact, Payne even goes so far as to say Vladimir Lenin, right? There's a statement from Lenin which said, when I was a teen, I broke from all religion. I took the cross from my neck and I threw it in the rubbish bin. And Paine has a quote where, not Paine, Richard Wurmbrand, where I think he believes that Lenin even stomped on it. He says, well, that's a satanic ritual. I don't know that it is or not. But there's another case of Lenin who at least did the work of the devil. I mean, Lenin had, according to Robert Conquest, W.H. Chamberlain, the first historian of the Russian Revolution, 500,000 people were killed from 1917 to 1923 under Lenin, not even including the Russian Civil War. If that's not the devil's work, I don't know what the hell is, right? But I think what Paine said in the latter quote, the devil's view of the world, the devil's malignity, and at the very least, this identification with kind of devilish-like destruction, right? Tearing everything down, rebelling against the world, everything that exists deserves to perish. That at least, and then the ideology that he created that just happened to be responsible for the deaths of over 100 million people in the 20th century, more than World War I and World War II combined. So that ideology was pretty hellacious.
Yeah, to say the least.
Like they said, man, he didn't explicitly say that he worshiped Satan or, was a Satanist. But the Bible says you will know them by their fruits. The fruits that people bear based off their labor, based off their heart, based off of the seeds that they sow into this world. You can tell where that person lies at, I would say spiritually, whether they're on the side of Christ or the side of the fallen. And clearly by the fruits of Marx's labor, you see that it was something demonic. You see that it was something that I feel like Satan himself planted within this man to cause the deaths that communism ultimately caused. So yes, I believe Karl Marx wasn't just anti-God in theory. I believe he was operating within that satanic spirit, within that antichrist spirit. Not just because he wore black robes or did rituals, but because his heart, his words, and his worldview all align with that system, which we all know Satan's agenda is to kill, to destroy, to steal, and rebel against the authority of God. And when you're writing things like, I wish to avenge myself against the one who rules above, and my soul, once true to God, is chosen for hell, that's not just rebellion, that's allegiance. And we as believers, man, we need to call it what it is, guys. So I appreciate you sticking around today, gentlemen. If you like what we're doing here, man, please give us a like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel any further than that, you can go grab some of our Christian streetwear merch over at JesusandJapan.store. Link for that will be in the description, guys. Help us spread the gospel and the love of Christ through wearing faith-based merch that, showcases your faith, guys. So appreciate you. Thank you for sticking around. Use code Holy Spirit at checkout to receive 20% off, guys. So appreciate you. God bless you. See you in the next video.